What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets.
What's going on, STR Nation? This is your host, Emmanuel Pani, as you better know me as E. Here with my co-host, Mr. Mike Reilly. What's going on, man?
What's up? I'm doing great. I'm very grateful for the Cora Ann, Mike and Kristen's new baby who arrived 6 days ago. So
she's absolutely stunning.
She is.
She's the cutest little pig. Yeah.
I was
We're super excited
too. There's nothing more motivating, in my opinion. I got 2 kids, but nothing more motivating than like having a little girl.
It's different, huh? It's different between a boy and a girl. Did you also have a boy first and a girl second?
I had a girl first and then a boy second, but just something about it that like protective, gene probably kicks in a little bit and so protection with them. He said he feels that right now. So
I love that. That's cute. And it's cute to see Mike in that, more protective. Talking to Kristen, he's been absolutely simping over the baby as we all knew was going to happen. But yeah, I'm super excited for him. And I'm also excited for the show today. We had our good friend Ruben on, the king of midterm rentals. And again, we like to keep bringing on people that have earned their stripes, and what I mean by that is like there's a lot of people that come and go in this industry. There's a lot of people that start becoming super, super popular or super visual, but in my opinion, they haven't quite earned their stripes. And Ruben's not one of those people. Ruben is somebody that has deep dedication to learning the game and doing to the best of his abilities. And to me, that shows, right? Like this show was absolutely packed with like notes. I took a ton of notes, actionable, and Reilly was great with that because he kind of really took on the Sjogren rule in keeping us very, very regimented and just making sure that there was actionable intake from there. What were some of your favorite things about the show?
Yeah,
he dropped a lot of goodies.
He dropped so much knowledge. I think Ruben's just a wealth of knowledge, and he's interviewed so many different people on so many different real estate like expertises, and so he has very wide knowledge. But then his focus right now on midterm rentals is really the most profitable and like hottest little niche inside of hospitality. And he touches on how hospitality, it's still a hospitality game, even though somebody's staying for months at a time. There's still a big hospitality part of it too. And then his secret to success, and he'll talk about it, but secret to success is communication. And I think that's so true in any business, in anything in life too, is you need to be able to communicate effectively, especially when you're trying to move properties, move deals along in the process. Communication is absolutely key. So he really touched on that and dove into it. And I thought that was a great nugget among many.
with his own little spin on it. So it was definitely a great show. I deeply enjoyed it. So without further ado, we welcome Ruben back on the show. What's going on, STR Nation? This is your brother from another mother, E, joined by my good friend Mike Reilly, as Mr. Sjogren just had a baby last week. And we're here with Mr. Ruben Kanya, the man of MTR in the STR space. What's going on, my friend?
Fantastic. I'm back. Like I was saying, I said it 4 times now. Blessed to be with the best. Because it's not going to change. This is how I feel. I'm not changing it for anything. And we were just all together recently. I've been spoiled this year to be in both of your presence in this past quarter, this new year. We're just together in Nashville as well. So anytime I'm surrounded by my people and get energy, I'm in an all-time high vibration. So feeling good, man. Feeling good.
I love that. So yeah, and it's funny, man. Like I'm always reminded of the power of the people that you hang out with. Once I leave an event or once I get to hang out with my people as often as possible. Because again, like, dude, life, especially the people that you're normally have access to, the vibration is just different, right? So once you start hanging out with the right people and understanding like what's available to you in terms of like the friends you can have, it makes all the difference. So MTR is still a hot topic. You haven't been on for a little while, and you've been experimenting a lot in the lab when it comes to MTRs and everything that we can do and say about them. So give us a little rundown of current conditions, what things are looking like, and then we'll deep dive into a couple questions that I have for you, and I'm sure Reilly has some for you as well.
Yeah, but let's level set for a second. Let's not pretend like I've been here before, guys. I've been your number one listener for a hot minute because I'm
You
a
have.
student of the game. You know that. And
Mhm.
what I love is just for context, because I do want to bring this full circle. And if Mike was on here, Sjogren, because we have obviously Reilly here, not to be confused with Mike Reilly, this kind of comes full circle. But before I tell you about the MTR, I want to actually highlight how it comes full circle. Because one of the things I did is constantly what you said, be in proximity to the people that I want to be like, right? Or that I would exchange places with. That's usually what I say. It's like, would I exchange places with this person? Great. Let me hear what they have to say. And actually, I listen to everybody, but when it comes to like proximity of like what I'm trying, there's and how it happened, this whole foundation of the short-term rental foundation, because I believe that you have to have a strong short-term rental foundation to get into MTRs. It's critical. I learned it from Sjogren when he came on my show, episode 91. And that was because, our agency at the time, if you remember, was launching short-term rental secrets, which was fascinating. And the only reason that happened is because I don't know if you know Jamie Gruber. I had
Mhm.
started a podcast myself to just be in proximity. That's all it was. I remember I had this limiting belief where I didn't think I was ready to start interviewing others until I had X amount of portfolio. Actually, when I started the podcast, I didn't even own real estate. And the first person that I got on the podcast had 300 million assets under management. So then, because I took that action, started to be in proximity, Jamie came on and be like, I love what you're doing with your content. Can you do that for us? And that's how the agency was born. Then we helped launch Short Term Rental Secrets. Then I brought Mike on and I was like, I was on this whole bigger pockets phase for a long time. And when Mike said I retired my mother at 18, in 18 months, and myself and my wife, I was like, I have to listen to this. And that's what it was. So first, it's always being able to listen to what's happening around you because you can look at one asset one way, but if that's your only lens, that's all you're going to get out of it. And I think it's a perfect transition for us to, we're jaded. We look at everything in short-term rentals, but what does the midterm rental insurance play look like? And if I'm optimized for insurance, can I also get other types of MTRs? And that's why we're here, brother. That's why we're here today. Just one experiment at a time. Isn't that
Mhm.
something?
Yeah, I love that story. And like every time, you know what's funny? And I give you credit for this. Proximity is one thing, but then is action, right? It's the
Mhm.
same thing about like how many people, and I've been obsessing with rereading Think and Grow Rich due to Dave Conway. And in reading that, there is a part on the chapters for persistent where he talks about ideas. And
Mhm.
now every time we get an idea, the idea doesn't have any life to it. And it's in that moment when you get an idea that is the time that you got to cultivate it and breathe life into it the most. Because if not, the idea just goes away or it gets given to somebody else, which is one of my opinions about ideas, right? The ideas go back into the universe and they go to somebody else. One of the things that you do super well is in breathing life into the ideas that you get or the thoughts that you get. So when you get an idea and you get somebody giving you feedback on something, you are an expert in executing on the new piece of information and making a change. And I think that is what a lot of people are missing is they get the knowledge, they get the information, they have the ideas, but then they don't breathe life into it. And a lot of the times, in my opinion, or in my life at least, has been you don't breathe life into things because you start thinking about all the bullshit that you have in your mind as to why you can or cannot do something. And that kills the life out of your idea. But one
Mhm.
of the things that you're great at is get the idea, get the thought, get the concept, and execute on it. Breathe life into it. And your life
Appreciate.
is an example of that, right? Because your life has changed drastically and dramatically since I've known you. So yeah.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man. I,
Yeah,
I,
for
I
sure.
take that. I receive that blessing from you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, why do you say that to be successful in MTRs, you have to have a good foundation in STRs? Why not just what about long-term rentals?
Yeah.
Can you be a
So
successful MTR operator
yeah,
as a long-term rental?
yeah. No, that's a good question, E. So the reason I say that is because I believe in always having an exit strategy, right? And so a lot of people that hear, "Hey, can I do MTRs, etc." Well, the reason I say it's important for you to have a foundation in SDR is because every deal that I look at, I'm still thinking of what's my exit strategy, right? Before I buy, before I co-host, is what is the exit strategy? So I'll tell you how we've been able and why I went to the midterm rental insurance niche specifically in a second, but it started with having a short-term rental asset. And the reason why I think it's important is because if you have you're still in the hospitality business, number one, right? So you still need
Mhm.
to understand the fundamentals of being able to host people, whether they're coming in for a month or 2 weeks to 8 months to six. You're officially in the hospitality business as soon as you lay your head on that pillow. Shout out to Mark Simpson.
Mhm.
He's always saying that, right?
Yes.
Uh, so that's one thing. And so if you can get that out of the way, there's a lot that comes into it. You guys know, right? Like if I'm talking about not the Airbnb operator next door. I'm talking about the optimized person who's giving the hotels a run for their money, right? They've taken the professional photography, they have soup to nuts, cleaning end to end, dynamic pricing with respect to marketplaces, demand, supply and demand. You know, they have a seamless experience, smart locks integrated with their check-in and checkout instructions, automated message. You see, it's the same concept because when I'm gonna have a family walk through the property, which I never let a family walk alone, it's still the same fundamentals on check-in time. I don't have to be there. There's a smart lock code. I have a PMS. I can check them in. So that's what I mean. Now it doesn't mean that you're not qualified to go from LTR to MTR. I just believe for this community, especially, you are at an extreme advantage if you already have that short-term rental foundations because you're only a few tweaks away to starting to play in the MTR pool. Another thing I will say going back to the exit strategy is I always want to make sure I'm analyzing a deal, the numbers for STR, because when I'm not doing the MTR, I want to have the ability to run the hybrid model, which you can do very effectively by having a combination of listings, right? So, what I was saying in recap is just it's important to be able to marry the two models together because if someone tells you, "Hey, Ruben, I guarantee that you can get back to back to back to back to back contracts," I would say, well, unless you really, really have these connections, you can time things perfectly, you might not always have an MTR contract. So what happens in between? I always like to use the analogy. It's like you don't want the plane to take off with empty seats. As an airline, you always want to have people on standby because then you're maximizing your dollar by running the hybrid strategy.
I love that. Um, One of the things that you touched on, which is something that we were talking off air, is unless you have those relationship dialed in, right? Which is something that's super important because again, like if we have a listener that wants to get into the MTR space, right, and they had heard of Furnish Finder, they heard of AALE solution and everything else, but it's like, how do you, let's say you're somebody that has 40, 50 properties that you manage. How do you plant your flag in the ALE solutions, especially, right? Kind of like arena to be like, hey, like I'm a player, I have quality properties, I want to help families, semi people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like anything, Ian, it's all about meeting them where they're at, right? So, just like any business, it's interesting when people say, "Oh, look, this is, where do I get more clients, etc." Well, if you're in an Airbnb, where do people go when they want to stay? They are either going at a hotel or they're going to Airbnb, right? So you're meeting the client where they go. So it's one thing, and I've had this conversation. Mark keeps coming to the conversation, right? Book direct, great. Might not be for everybody because if you're just starting out with respect to where you are in your journey, you go where the people go. If people don't know you, they're not going to type in, you know, as much as I love, Riley, they're not typing in Mike Riley properties if they've never met Mike. but they
Mhm.
may be able to foster a relationship there and meet the client where they're at, right? So where are these insurance companies going? Well, first, let's preface by saying that let's not get confused with the terminologies, because the insurance companies, the Allstate, State Farms, they're not the ones looking for you. So let's actually level set for a second. What happens is when a family gets displaced, right? And due to an unforeseen event, they need to be temporarily relocated into housing. What they will do, if it's a flood, if it's a fire, they're going to call their insurance company and they're going to say, I'm filing a claim. I can't live here. I need help, etc. Like, we got to go somewhere. And they're, of course, eligible to be temporarily displaced. Now, State Farm, Allstate, they're not going to be the ones to call Mike, Reilly, or Emmanuel because they don't know you. But you know who they know? They are partnered with temporary relocation companies like the ones you mentioned, ALE Solutions, which stands for, not a lot of people know, Additional Living Expense Solutions. They term the coin, it's an industry name that just happens to be part of their brand name. Very smart because it comes up first, probably great for SEO, search engine optimization. But that's neither here nor there. ALE Solutions, THD, CRS Temporary Housing, there are a ton out there. They're the ones that are working directly with the insurance companies and placing families. And these relocation specialists, you need to find out where they're going. And where they're going, number one, their database, then OTAs, and then, of course, relationships, right? And now the fun fact is they don't go into it in that order. It could be either or within the exact same company. I've spoken to many different relocation specialists who have different workflows. So it's actually in your best interest to live on across all those three verticals.
Hmm. So how do you talk to a relocation specialist?
Yeah. So the first thing, if someone's like listening, they're like, okay, like this sounds cool. I got tons of properties. To answer your first question, I got like 50, or maybe I have two, because maybe, there's people out there that
Mhm.
have two. You don't have to have a lot either, because I do get that question like, oh, do I have to have a huge portfolio? No, you can actually take your existing portfolio and just submit them in the database. That's where they go. That's a big part of where they're at in their database, is where they start. Why? Because they're facing friction out in the marketplace. You realize how many posts I've seen of these companies reaching out to homeowners and say, hey, we'll pay you a premium for 3 months or 4 or 5 or a month. And there's actually pushback. And this is why I was talking about the podcast earlier, because it's education. It's like when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And if you're not privy to this information, you might think this screams scam. Rightfully so, because there's tons of scam. You're on VRBO, you get, hey, can we take this offline? I'll send you a
A
cashier's
check.
check. It's like, dude, no, we're not doing that. So then when I get, and it's unfortunate, but it's the time that
Mhm.
we're in that people have a guard, as they should, because we are
Mhm.
targeted enough. I've seen people get robbed tons of time with their furniture completely gone. Someone in our community, actually, that you know very well, one of their SDRs completely robbed, from the, like, literally everything taken. So it is in your best interest to have your guard up, but at the same time, if you're not educated on how they reach out to you, you might miss a big lucrative opportunity. And most importantly, you might miss an opportunity to actually truly be able to help a family. Because the challenge that these relocation specialists are facing, and the reason that they're going to their database first, is when they go to a furnish finder, when they go to Airbnb, there's two big obstacles that they find. Number one, they either find that people are not pet friendly. And if people are not pet friendly, you'd be surprised. I can tell you guys, E and Mike, between us, I would say 70% of the families that we've helped have pets. So, and what's fascinating, if you ever done a search, whether you're doing it on Price Apps or Airbnb, you do the search at home and you flick on pet friendly, and you'll just see that whole denominator just completely get cut in half. So that's one challenge that they face, right? So it's in my best interest to go to a database of people that are pet friendly, have fully furnished accommodation. Number two, they face the obstacle of homeowners saying it's one way or the other. Nope, 12-month lease is all we do. Nope, 12 months. We want 12 months. We want first month security. Well, the way these insurance companies work, they'll start with like a 3-month lease or a 2-month lease or even a 1-month lease, and extend as they continue to get an update on the scope of the work, because it might be a pipe burst and then they have to depend on a construction company to get the timeline of when the work's going to be done. So they can't fully commit to 12 months, right? So those are the two obstacles. And that's why it would be in my best interest, if I'm a relocation specialist, to start in my database, because I'm getting declines, rejected, no responses on all the other areas. So it's the lowest hanging fruit. So meet them where they go first. Then the second is the OTAs, which I'm happy to talk about because there's a huge opportunity if we're here to understand how you can actually get in front of them, because just the reality is we have scattered calendars, which means if doing a search for the next 3 months, you're just not going to show up. So meet them where they
Mhm.
go, right?
Mhm. I would
Yeah.
love you to build on that, actually,
Yeah.
right? Because it's something that, so we talk about this a lot, especially in the mastermind. It's like, okay, how you optimize your calendar. Obviously, from your perspective, you have the gaps where you may be doing STRs, but the goal is primarily to do MTRs. So how do you manage your calendar? Do you have multiple
Yeah.
calendars? Like what does that game look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So if I would have done it differently, actually, guys, now that I think of it, just because from experience, I'm always gathering these nuggets, right? Like if I was starting from scratch today, because I understand, and I know I'm kind of teasing this a little bit here, but understand that doing this model with the relationships that you build is building essentially a business on top of another business. What do I mean by
Mhm.
that? You're building a book of business. Because I'm building a book of business, what does that mean? It's kind of like the financial advisor that has all these clients in his 70s, him or her 70s, 80s, 60s, whenever they want to retire, they're like, well, I have all these connections. Who can I hand this business off to? They do this all the time. They'll sell their book of business all day long. This business is no different, because the relationship pillar that I talk about is so critical. So the reason why I'll talk about the calendar in a second, but I want to level set with that, because if you understand the end goal, very similar to when you're acquiring a property, what is your exit strategy? If your exit strategy could potentially be, I like having options that I could sell this business, then it would be in your best interest to then start from scratch. We should, and it's still not late. I would have actually created an entire different Airbnb profile, right? Now, if you don't want to do that, you can actually just create duplicate listings, right? Because why am I creating a duplicate listing? Well, there's two reasons. And why am I saying to start another profile? Well, it's for the same purpose. You could just tackle it in different ways, right? So what I was saying is, you can either create your own profile for strictly for MTRs and then have an STR profile, or if you do what we do, I would have done it different, because I would be able to sell my Airbnb profile to someone, or however that works. You know, the reason I want to do that is because the power of having two different listings, whether it's two profiles or on the same profile, is critical. Why? Because I told you I manage my STR calendar so that it's not too far wide open, right? It's currently March. It's about to be March tomorrow when we're recording this. By the time this launches, it'll launch in March. I don't want to be overextended and start receiving bookings in September, June. No, I don't want any of that, right? Because then what happens is that means I'm not even giving myself a chance to land an MTR contract that could come in next month, right? Now I do have a backup plan, but it's I want to remove the friction, right? So therefore, I want to have my cake and eat it too. So therefore, I have an STR listing and then I have an MTR listing. The STR listing is not too far wide open with respect to your lead time. So we do 30 days. If your market is like maybe 2 months, do 2 months, right? Because you still want to capture the business while you can within that lead time. And on the second listing, it is open for opportunities, right? So case study wise, if I'm a relocation specialist and I need to relocate a family for the next 3 months, what will I encounter? Well, first, I already talked to you about that family has a pet. So I'm going to turn on the pet and I look at 100 properties. And as soon as I turn on the pet, now there's 50 properties available, right? So then I'm going to go, let's see what's open for the next 3 months. All of a sudden, I'm going to be at 12 properties, let's say, right? Then I'm going to look at it. And there's a reason. If you're open for the next 3 months, there's two reasons. Either you're actually not available, right? Or actually, no, the filter would make you available. So it's either no one wants to actually book for a reason, right? Like, ooh, that's why that's why it's wide open, right? Or so let's cut it in half. Now, this next six remaining ones, right? Are they in a position where they're in the top percentile? Are they like the top are they like the Airbnb host next door? Or are they, just let me just throw up a listing up, right? And this is where we have the opportunity, going back to my first point. You want to have a foundation of being a great STR operator with great copy, great pictures, etc. Because now my MTR listing is an opportunity to capture that business. And now you might say, well, Ruben, what if I'm booked for the next 3 weeks on the STR listing, but my MTR listing shows that I'm wide open? Well, keep in mind there's flexibility in this space Because if I'm looking to relocate for the next 6 months, do I really need to move in tomorrow, or can I wait another week if I can make that property become available? So that's the whole goal. You really want to manage and juggle. And of course, we talk about it in our masterminds. It's all about having a calendar strategy that will allow you to capture the lead, capture the connection, so that you can then book and at least get leads and even get contacts that'll, even if this one's not available, allow you to be available for the next time, right? I always focus on the contact over the contract.
Catch
I
it.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
that
we
So-
gotta
too.
make you guys some shirts. Make you some
Yeah.
merch.
So Ruben, I got, and this is really for people that have that good solid STR foundation. I've got be pet friendly, be flexible with your calendar, create 2 listings. Right. What are some other tips you would give to
Ooh.
STR hosts
We're
that
missing the,
that want
yeah.
to get into MTR?
Yeah, we're missing the most important one, because I get, and see, you throw me you throw it off the backboard for the dog. I
No.
like that. This is important because the thing is, the fundamentals of real estate don't change, right? Like, if you think about that, we always talk about, okay, great, what about, what area should buy it, etc. For me, I don't even think about the market first. Why? I think about the asset type. The asset type matters because there's a difference between the furnish finder, travel nurse versus the family of 5 with 2 dogs.
Mhm.
And I always like to use the analogy that it's easy, or it's doable, it's possible to fit a family of 2 into a 5-bedroom home, but it's pretty hard to fit a family of 5 into a 2-bedroom home. Now, what do I want to do as an operator? Just like the way I run my business, I want to increase all my chances. Just like I talked about the duplicate listings, just like I talked about having an exit strategy. I just want to increase my chances. I just want to win, yo. Is there something wrong with that? Right? So for that reason, I say, well, what's the type of asset that could accommodate all families? Let's think about it. My sweet spot is 4 bedrooms plus. It doesn't mean that, oh my God, I have a 3-bedroom. This isn't going to work for me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I want to increase all my chances. And I'm saying there's a sweet spot in the marketplace that's 4 to 5 bedrooms. Why? Because it's a big challenge. Challenge for me is an opportunity. An opportunity, you are compensated based on the level of complexity or problem that you solve. What's so complex about having a family of 5 relocate? Well, think about it. If you got to relocate for the next 6 months, I'm a family of 5 with 2 dogs. Putting them at a hotel, not only it costs a premium, but it's not even ideal to their lifestyle. They don't have the backyard they used to have. They don't have the living room. They don't have the dining room. They're probably going to be split. The lifestyle decreases. And because I told you there's a challenge out there of A, the pet, B, the availability. So now I become the asset. But now, do I have the right asset type, aka the home, to be able to accommodate this family? If I have a 2-bedroom apartment, it's not that I can't be in this model, but I'm decreasing the chances of being able to host a family. So if I can go for a 4 to 5, I've had a family of 2 stay in a 5-bedroom home. Works out. Now the other thing, so let's go 4 to 5 bedrooms, master on main. You guys heard about the silver tsunami? You guys know what that is? This whole thing
No.
about in the next couple
Is
of
it
years,
old
we're gonna have a
people?
lot more. Yeah, there's gonna be more old people than young people. That's facts. What do I need? Access, right? I'm not saying you got to be ADA
And the
compliant, but the
stairs.
absolutely. If you look at 90% of our homes, they're ranch styles. They have access to the basement, but you know what? Some families don't even need to access the basement because I got the washer and dryer on that same floor. I got the master on main. I don't have carpets because I want to be pet friendly, right? Everything on that main floor. You don't have to enter the home with steps, right? Guys, I'm telling you right now, like if you think about that, you're increasing all your chances because now you're like ADA compliant, you're pet friendly, etc. And that's my goal. There's no perfect. These opportunities are so prevalent. Like I don't even have my stats really in front of me, but and I'll pull it up actually because I have this. But I spoke to ALE Solutions, all right. And the reason we bring up ALE Solutions is because you said, hey, I asked them and I said, I have it right in front of me here. I said, how many because the thing is, I'm curious. I think Emmanuel kind of called me out on that, right? And I said, how many of these claims do you like just happen per day? I'm just curious. It's just like, and this is one company. There's multiple companies. And it was like 80 to 8, about 80 claims a day. I'm like, 80 claims per day? I'm like, let's do some quick math. So 80 to 100 claims, that's 560 claims per week. That's 2240 per month. That's 26,880 claims per year on one company. And that doesn't even include like these natural disasters. This is so prevalent if you're aware of the opportunity. And these insurance companies have trillions of dollars available ready to deploy to for people who are willing and able to receive and serve and solve these problems. So going back to the asset type, I want to make sure that I'm ready to serve. Oh, I want all the smoke. Throw it at me. 4 to 5 bedrooms, master on main, avoid the stairs, washer and dryer on the same floor, garage. Don't trip on the garage, guys, and fenced in backyard. Think about it. If I got a pet in a new environment, what are they going to do? They're going to be running around everywhere. If you don't have a fence, not saying it's a deal breaker, but it's disadvantage. It's a disadvantage to you being able to host families. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
love
also
that.
too, like the when you look at the short-term rental space, there's been there've been 500,000 more short-term rentals on the market listed on Airbnb in the last 2.5 years. Like 500,000 more short-term rentals that have been listed. And this MTR strategy, I think, works for all like home types too. It works for the 5 bedrooms. That's like the sweet spot for you, like 4 plus. But also, I've got 7 units that I've got 2 people that are from insurance contracts right now, and they keep extending as well. But the opportunity, like I've seen some ridiculous payouts too for some of your clients that you've been working with, and like I think the main thing is because of what you said, like the supply of 4, 5 bedroom houses for displaced families is so low that when the supply is low, you can charge more, right? Just like
100%.
how the supply has grown with short-term rentals, it's grown so much more. What has happened to prices and ADR? They've gone down. So there's some like pretty steep contracts. I think I saw like Monica got like a $43,000 booking, right?
Yeah. That was and that wasn't even insurance. You know what's so the reason why I love being optimized for insurance is because essentially like all the like midterm rentals, by the way, like that's an internal name, right? That's like us operators going from STR, STR, MTR. We don't say MTRs, it's corporate housing. That's been around for centuries. Corporate housing has been around. So where is corporate housing? Where do they hang out? Those were pilots for Monica and Wendy. That an entire company that were coming in with pilots in that zone. And what I love is if you optimize yourself for MTR, which is essentially corporate housing at a premium, that's the kind of avatar that you cater to, and that you're literally from the way that you pick your asset to the way you price your asset. They don't ask many questions about the budget, unless if, of course, which we'll go back to, of like how do we even come up with these numbers, right?
Right.
Well, it's based on the home value, right? Like, you know, the thing is, the relocation specialist doesn't have any skin in the game, right? And the reason why I always tell people in my community, it's like in our community, it's like, hey, just price high, because you want to eliminate the person that you're not serving. And when I mean that, I shouldn't say eliminate, you want to make sure you're speaking the language of the person you're trying to attract. And the thing is, you're not going to serve everybody, right? If you put, hey, it's $100 a month, I'm telling you right now, it's some corporate housing gonna look at that and be like, okay, this is not our avatar. It's really not, right? So you want to make sure you're priced appropriately with respect to corporate housing, so that when Joe Schmo next door tries to book, they're gonna be like, this is way too expensive. We have people all the time. We're like, is this some kind of joke? And we're like, no, it's not. It's corporate housing. That's why it's not personal, and that's why it's for corporate. So that is an easy way to navigate that conversation. It's like, what's corporate housing? Oh, well, it's just, we actually help displaced families. So this actually might not be the best fit for you, because we understand it is priced at a premium, right? So why is it a premium, and how can these insurance companies afford it? Well, one of the things, and we were talking about this offline, that I think this is the biggest question typically that's asked, like, well, how are you pricing, and why are they paying so much? Like, why is, 8,000, 10,000 a month, 15,000, $20,000 a month? Why? How? Well, it's important that you buy the right asset, because it'll be based on the like kind of asset that the family is coming from, going to your property. What that means is like kind, meaning if they're coming from a $400,000 home, it's most likely that the relocation specialist is going to try to find them a $400,000 home. But typically what they do is they go by square footage, right? And so we've had sometimes our home be like, sorry, this home is actually too large, right? But they're going to go for a like kind home. Now, if you think about it, if you go for a 4 or 5 bedroom, or even if you have a 3 bedroom or two, again, it's typically based on the region, right? Zip code. They want to be close in proximity, keep the kids in the same school zone if they got to be temporary displaced, etc. But another thing that they derive the value of how much additional living expense, or AKA loss of use, or coverage D, otherwise known, is it's derived from the value of the home. So the napkin math that I always tell people, because typically it's like if you go on Zillow, one might say, well, that's not coverage A, but it's the closest thing to coverage A. Coverage A is the dwelling value of the property, right? So essentially, all of us have access to Zillow, realtor.com. If we're doing some quick napkin math and we want to do some math on what would probably be the additional living expense that I would have, which AKA means if I was displaced from this property that I'm looking at on Zillow, how much additional living expense would the insurance company cover for? You do a quick 20 to anywhere from 20 to 30% of that home's value. That's the quick napkin math. So a $400,000 home could very well have $100,000 worth of additional living expense, which means that it's the loss of use that the family could use during their displacement. Now, the reason why that's a premium, if you think about it, if you have $100,000 available, but you only need to relocate for the next 3 months, would it be unreasonable if there were no other options that you could charge that family 30,000? If approved by the adjuster, absolutely, it would fall right within their budget. That's $90,000. Now, let's be honest, adjusters aren't foolish. They're also very budget driven in the sense that it's not their money, but they're also going to want to make sure that work always takes longer. So they're not going to want to have the family exceed that budget. So they might say 30,000 is a little bit much, because who knows? This might not just be 3 months. This could go for 6. So, but at least you have a baseline of where you can do math. That way you can say, when someone reaches out to me, it's not that I need to know what they have on their policy. I can't ask him, hey, can you show me what's on your loss of use? But you have an idea because they're coming to your property, and your property is a comparable that can help you derive how much you can actually charge for that lead.
So
So
simple
with
math
one of
there.
yeah,
Sorry.
go right.
Simple math there. Then the $500,000 house,
Mhm.
in the suburbs of Atlanta, you're looking at
Mhm.
like probably what, 2,500 square feet,
Yep.
and that can be a 4-bedroom house.
Yep.
So what would be like the coverage E, or I guess that monthly budget somebody would get for that size
Yeah.
house?
Let's make it fun. So we do some math. So if it's 30%, that's 150,000. If it's 20%, that's about 100,000. I think I misspoke earlier when I said 100,000 out of 400,000. You know my math. That was more of 25%. Anywhere around that range, you'll see that sweet spot. If you look at your home insurance policy right now, some say unlimited, but it's a good ballpark. So for $500,000 property, you could have very well $150,000 to $100,000 to $150,000 based on loss of use. Now, with respect to your insurance company, some could be lower, some could be higher. That's why you pick a great insurance company that will cover that. But that's the average. Yes.
And
Not
so
great.
it's your
This one was, yeah.
question. So it's your question to your adjuster and or to the family, right? Does it happen that a family calls you directly?
Yeah, so there's two ways. There's when a claim happens, you either have the family is like, okay, go hunting for opportunities. Family could go on Zillow, could go on Airbnb, but let's be honest,
Mhm,
people when they think of furnished housing, where do they go first? Typically Airbnb. That's why
mhm,
it's in your best interest to be in the database and Airbnb, but fully optimized on Airbnb. Because if they send the family is going to go ahead and find something, and then the insurance company is going to reimburse them right after they pay. What we're
mhm,
seeing often now is also Airbnb for work. That's common, where the relocation specialist will actually do the searching and then insert the family once. It's really weird. It's like this. If you haven't experienced it, some again, you might think it's a scam, but it's not, because their profiles are not that optimized. Like we're corporate, this will be like, this is John from CRS, and I'm here trying to replace relocate a client. And then once they book or you accept the booking, the client's name Emmanuel will pop up and be like, wait, what happened to John? So that happens. It's called Airbnb for work. They'll utilize that, but there's two options. Either they're going to go on Airbnb, get reimbursed, they're going to go on Zillow, they're going to look for themselves, or the relocation specialist is going to look on their behalf and book on their behalf. Now, it's a great question that you bring up, E, because I've actually educated a homeowner who's not aware. I'll give you a case study where a homeowner, where I was speaking to them directly, they booked through Airbnb for about a month, and then they're like, hey, we're going to have to leave because we can't afford to stay here anymore. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean you can't afford? Your insurance company's paying for this, right? We talked about this last time, right? Remember, I can call my guest once they book on Airbnb. Let's have a conversation. Let me give you a masterclass. Have you looked at your home insurance policy lately? Right? I know. I am that guy. I can't. My wife would be
You are
see,
you
Celine
you
knows. She'll
are
look
that
at
guy.
me.
You are
Celine look at me like, oh, there he goes
give me a
again. Like,
masterclass.
this is,
I could just see Celine in the corner just rolling her eyes and be like,
guys, I'm giving free game. I didn't charge him for the masterclass, but he got the bag. I'll tell you how I did it. So I I asked him, like, have you looked at your home insurance policy lately? And he's like, by the way, like, none of us do, right? Like, we don't,
no.
unless there's a claim. Who's looking at that? You sign a document when you
You
close
don't
on
even
the
know where
house,
it is. Do you guys know
right?
where
I don't
yours
know what
is?
it. You don't look. I don't. It's
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's in a drawer somewhere for sure.
in the cloud.
Somewhere deep. It's in the
Yours
cloud.
is in the cloud? Of course it is.
It's metaverse. It's in the
Yeah, yeah.
metaverse. So I looked at this guy. And I'm like, have you looked at your policy lately? Obviously, no. It's like, do you know where it is, etc. Have a look at it and tell me what that amount is. And meanwhile, if you could just give me your adjuster's phone number. I'll have a little chat with him. Now the chat wasn't going to be invasive. I'm like, this is what a public adjuster would do. If you guys haven't worked with a public adjuster, you need to work with them before you call your insurance company still has their best interest. Let's keep it 100 here. So now I'm playing the role of a public adjuster, and I call him and be like, hey, listen, I have a client here, and the last thing I want to do is kick him to the curb. They're saying they're running out of budget. Now I knew my area, I knew my comp, they picked my home, they're in this neighborhood. There's no way they're running out of money in this neighborhood, right? I just know it's been a month. You would have to be up like 8 months to run out of money. So I was like, hey, what's going on? The adjuster is like, oh, well, yeah, I moved somebody in. He's like, your house is too expensive. I'm like, well, always make a claim for yourself. If someone says expensive, it's like, I know it's expensive because you don't ever reject. You said, of course it's expensive. We include Wi-Fi, we include, cleaning, landscaping, furniture included, etc. But this is all they're getting, right? All the amenities, etc. He's like, I moved a family down the street at this price. I'm like, at that price? I mean, that's if you can find that again, good luck. But I just want to help this family. Can you please let me know if you'll get this approved for them? Because the last thing I want to do is have this family moved out. I know they're going through a situation right now, but on a Sunday. I text him, guys, I hung up. 20 minutes later, this guy went from like, it was cutting their budget in half. It was like, he told him it was like something ridiculous. I can't even remember the number. It was like $80 a day or something. I'm like, what in this neighborhood? Like, that's nothing. You can't even stay at a motel for that price. So Larry texts me back. He's like, all right, approved, $220 a day. Like, he doubled his price. And I'm like, why did we need to go through that? Like, why did you do that to that family that's paying a premium? And it's funny because this is actually on my Instagram. I called the homeowner and I'm like, hey, I got some good news. You're staying. He's like, wow, thank you so much. And then I'm like, by the way, did you ever end up finding out what was on your home insurance policy? You know what he said to me? Guess the number.
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
Was
Unlimited.
Stop.
It was unlimited.
Yeah.
So why? So it's in
Dude,
our best
gotta
interest to
educate
be
yourself, man.
educated.
Yes.
Exactly.
100%.
And it's
For your
best
clients
interest.
and for yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
For your clients and for yourself, man.
Okay.
Like,
So, as always, Ruben, I can stay here and talk to you forever. I know you got something at the top of the hour. We're getting really, really close to it. So before we get into the last question, once again, I want to acknowledge you, first of all, for like all the service and all your giving that you do. As you guys can tell, Ruben can talk about this at length, and it's something that you have dedicated a lot of time into learning. And so I, first of all, acknowledge that, see that, and appreciate it. Reilly, did we have something that we can share with our listeners in terms of MTR?
Yeah.
To share the
Yeah,
link.
for sure. I know, Ruben, you put together a really in-depth blueprint for everybody, like free blueprint of like, here is it the 7 steps, right?
yeah, it's the MTRR blueprint. That is basically I talked a lot about calendar management stuff. There's like a quick little, like, if you want to do a tune-up and you're an Airbnb host, especially, you have an advantage because you make some quick tweaks and already start to see some traction. So it's a midterm rental insurance blueprint. I'm happy to share that with this audience. Lots of good value there that you guys got to sink your teeth into this because you're going to be a little bit blown away. That's how I was. I got this paradigm shift and I never looked back. So I'm happy to share that with the community.
Yeah, 100%. So if you go to, for the listeners, if you go to go.strsecrets.com/MTR secrets, midterm rental secrets, MTR secrets, you will find that blueprint there. And also to announce, I don't know if we've done this on the podcast, but short-term rental secrets is growing. So we've partnered with you, Ruben, to come and educate more people on the midterm side. And I think that's just a testament to you and your success, but also just we want to help more people learn different areas inside of hospitality, inside of real estate, that you can get success. So I'm super pumped. I know Mike is. We've had a pre-launch with like some of our short-term rental secret students. Have started working with you, and like I mentioned, Monica got a $43,000 booking. Like Daryl, I think, got like a $8,400 booking in the off season. So this strategy just works, and we want to share it with more people.
Absolutely, 100%. Man.
100%. Okay, so that link is going to be in the show notes as well, so it's easy for you to find. And then Ruben, the last question we ask anybody, which will tweak it a little bit for you, is what's your number one secret to success in MTRs or Midterm rentals?
Yeah, the number one secret to success in MTR and beyond MTR is communication. You have to be able to communicate with your homeowner, whether it's through the OTA, whether it's offline, whether it's through a call. And communication doesn't mean talking. Communication typically means listening, right? And I know I had a buddy that he even had, I think, 12 different inquiries on a property he just launched. But because he was able to communicate and listen very closely and see that one was very specific, he says, I need to stay here. Need is very different than a want. And it's like, well, how come you need to? Oh, because we encountered a et cetera, right? Issue where we need to be displaced and relocated. So not all inquiries are created equal. Not all housing is created equal, right? And for this reason, it's in your best interest to communicate by listening. It's your best interest to communicate with your policyholder to help them maybe extract not only provide a premium experience and stay, and also be able to be paid handsomely for that premium for solving a large problem. So communication, man. And I could go on and on of how you communicate with guests, communicate your vision to your team, communicate with the relocation specialist, the ones who are the gatekeepers, but communication all day long, brothers. That's why I love being on here with you all.
Love it. My brother, it was great having you. Thank you so much for coming on, educating, sharing, and just being a humble learner. I always love and appreciate that about you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys too, man. We got to do this again. So thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to sending a lot of abundance to everybody who's listening, and abundance to you both, man. I really appreciate you guys and love you both.
Likewise. Okay, guys. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.